Hi, I'm Jeff Flateau, the Cookie Man. I've been in the food business for over 30 years, and one thing I can tell you for certain, you never know what's coming around the bend. While it's the food that may have brought you to our show, it's the people and their stories that'll keep you coming back for more. And that's the way the cookie crumbles. Welcome to another episode of That's the Way the Cookie Crumbles. I'm here with a new friend, a good friend of mine introduced me to, Nelson Haskins. We're down at the Blue Jazz Cafe.
Yeah.
So there's food and drink and also jazz and music, not just jazz. Nelson also has across the street, when we look out there, we've got Nellie's chicken wings and daiquiris. Or is it chicken fingers?
Nellie's chicken and daiquiris. So
chicken,
a little bit of everything.
Finger or wing.
Yeah.
And then we've got on the corner, which used to be the California Sandwich Shop.
Yep. Southbound Bagel.
And
coffee shop.
And coffee. So this man doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
My hat's off to him. He's working a lot of hours. But good to see you again.
Yeah, no problem.
Glad you could join us today. Well, let's just get right to it. Tell everybody where you were born.
So I was born in Gulfport, Mississippi. So I'm from the coast, but I grew up in Hattiesburg. My family moved here when I was in the 3rd grade. So essentially, I grew up in Hattiesburg, but born in Gulfport.
And where'd you go to school in Hattiesburg?
I went to North Forest High School, went to, and also Southern Miss.
So you graduated from North Forest, went to Southern Miss?
Graduated.
And so family-wise, I know you married. Where's your wife from?
She is from Vicksburg, Mississippi.
A great town.
Yeah. So she's from Vicksburg. We have 2 sons. My oldest one's 26, so I'm a little older than you probably think. But he's 26 years old, and then my youngest is 18.
Are you saying you think you look young? Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
You do.
Most people say they don't look my age.
I wouldn't think 26-year-old for you, but
I started early, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and you've held up real well.
So he's 26, and my youngest one's 18, and they both. The youngest one, somewhat. He works with me part-time, but my oldest works full-time.
Yeah. So both of those guys work with you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You say 2 kids?
2.
Both boys?
Both, yeah.
Well, that's good. Keep them in the business so they can help you out.
If they want to get paid.
Right, exactly. Exactly. How did you get started in food? Did you start out wanting to do that in college or younger? Or
no. So I went to Southern Miss on a chemistry scholarship, and realized that's not what I wanted to do. And one semester of that, I was like, okay, this not it. So I just started working at Chesterfield's when it was over by campus as a server.
Yeah.
And just trying to make just a college job, and kind of I like waiting tables, and I like the back then waiting tables at Chesterfield's you can make pretty good amount of money.
Yeah.
For a college student, and I'm like, hey, this is pretty good. And I was there for a couple of years, and Chester Smith, may he rest in peace. Everybody knows Chester.
Yeah.
He came to me one day and said, "Hey, we're looking for a front of house manager. Would you be interested? And here's the pay." And I saw the pay, and I was like, "Yep, I'll do it."
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got started, and it kind of spurred some interest in the restaurant business. And then I changed from chemistry, of course. That didn't last long. Then I went into like business management and accounting, and finally settled in with hospitality management.
Yeah.
And on campus back then, it used to be the charcoal room.
Yeah. I remember charcoal room.
That was basically the training ground for. So I did that, and so that's kind of what. And so those 2 things kind of tied together, and it kind of inspired me to be in the restaurant. So that was the beginning. It's a long story after that, but that's the start.
So when you were at Southern, did you work at Chesterfield's then? Or did
you?
Yeah. So even in management or no?
Once I moved into management, that's when I kind of took a little break from school.
Yeah.
Working a lot of hours, and it kind of, I drifted away from school a little bit. Now I came back and finished my degree, but while I was working there, I kind of took a little break. I was in the military part-time at the time, so I kind of focused on that and did that for a while. So eventually came back to school and graduated, and then I went into the military full-time. I left the restaurant alone for a while because I needed to pay some bills.
Yeah.
And so and I had a family, of course. So all total, I did 20 years of service in the Army National Guard, 13 as a recruiter. So
Well,
it's been a journey.
Yeah. How long were you out of the restaurant business then from the time you left and it went into the Guard?
Okay, so the short and long story is I was at Chesterfield's, left Chesterfield's, went to Lenny's.
Yeah.
When Chester left Chesterfield, went to Lenny's Sub
Right.
Shop as one of his managers, moved to Destin, stayed there for a year and a half, came back, worked at Lenny's in Hattiesburg, okay, and then went back to Chesterfield. Chesterfield had that fire,
Yeah.
one of them.
One of the
I
three,
think one
yeah.
of the three, the last
I
one.
was at the first one.
Okay, so I was gone from there for a while, came back, Chris Happ, who's the current owner now,
Yeah.
bought Chesterfield's, and he reached out to me. I didn't know him at the time. He reached out to me, asked me would I come back as a manager again. So I did that, worked there for another 3 years, and decided to open my own restaurant called Nelly's Deli, which was in the old mall.
Okay.
Okay, the Cloverleaf Center
Yeah,
now.
that's right.
So I did that. That was like around 2005. So of course Hurricane Katrina hit. That kind of derailed me a little bit. We kind of stayed in it for 2 more years, and it was doing okay. But you know, the restaurant business can be tough, especially when you're young. So, and then I had a family, so that's how I ended up back in the military full time.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, that was 2008. So from 2008 to 2020. I finished up a career as a full-time recruiter.
Yeah.
So during that time, I wasn't in the restaurant business.
So 12 years straight in there.
Yeah. So toward the end of that, I did a little bit of part-time at Chesterfield's, trying to kind of get my feet back in the business a little bit. So I took a pretty good break from the restaurant business.
You think that helped you?
I think it did. It helped me focus, mature a little bit, because the first restaurant I had, I wasn't, the ideas were good. The food was good, but you know, a restaurant, it takes more than good ideas and good food. I mean, the numbers have to match up.
What's the key?
accounting.
What's the key to the restaurant business besides the food and the drink and the?
I think it's managing your costs. I mean, when it boils down to it, it's just managing your costs. Every line of accounting is a percentage, and I had to learn that. Hey, you know, the food's good and people love it and it's great, but if you don't track everything, you can get lost in the sauce. So I think accountant or some type of accountant, like now I have an accountant because that's not my forte.
Yeah.
So I let her do it.
Yeah.
And so now she can track it for me, and I tell her what I want, or she tell me, hey, you know, this is good, this isn't good, you need to make some adjustments. And so I think that's the key, especially for young incoming entrepreneurs.
You got to have that, but if you don't have the food and the service, it don't matter about the accounting.
Well, yeah,
so it's a catch. Yeah,
right.
It's a
So
catch-22.
the food and service, I guess, is a given, but at the same time,
But you got that. You got a knack for that. The numbers you don't have the knack for.
yeah, I had to work on that from being young to now. You know, and if you're in it long enough, if you don't have the knack for it, you'll get it.
You'll have to get it,
have
or
to
it'll get you.
That's right. So
you've got stick-to-itiveness. I think that's important too. I mean, because you have to be consistent in a place like this. You can't one day have this item one way, and then the next day say it's Amberjack, it's another way. So
right.
That's important as well.
Consistency. And I think you've been in the restaurant business for a long time, so you know that it's not just one thing. It's probably 5 or 6 things that really matter. Food and service, because Chester used to always say, clean restrooms, good food, keep the hot food hot, the cold food cold, appearance. And if you take care of those things, you'll be successful. Well, that's true, but you still have to make, from an ownership standpoint, from a management standpoint, yes, but from an ownership standpoint, it's numbers.
Yes.
Too.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
A manager's standpoint and an owner's standpoint are different sometimes.
2 different
because
things. Yep.
The owner has to make the money work. The manager is making it work. But a manager can take so much money and he can just spend and make it lavish, and then. But at the end of the day, the owner may not have that money, or the numbers don't work. So you're exactly right. So
different perspective, but I think you put it all in the pot. Everything has its percentages of importance, but the number one thing is customers. Right?
Yeah.
And you got to take care of your customers and be whoever you are. They need to know when they walk through the door, if they're coming in to get a steak or they're coming to get shrimp and grits, it's consistent.
And they know you. And you have to be consistent.
You have to be consistent.
Yeah,
yes.
You can't be in a bad mood, even though you may be in a bad mood.
Right.
So you have to get over that when you get in the door, and your staff too.
Right.
And it kind of, to me, it permeates down from the head to the bottom.
Yes.
Not that anybody on the bottom's bad, but that the new hires, let's say, to the oldest to you, is a reflection you know, how the place ends up with all those things. Most people, I guess, stay in it, you know.
Yeah.
But getting out may have put a better perspective for you on, you know, you learned some things, you got out and you came back and you probably saw maybe how I can do this better.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, you have a lot of ambition. You know, if people that are in business, in restaurant business in particular, if you have one place, it's a lot. If you have two, that's even more. You have three, and then you run all three basically yourself. Do you have help with that?
Well, I have key employees in each place. My son, my oldest son, and my wife kind of handle Nellie's.
Yeah.
And I go over, you know, we've got it set up. It's a simple concept. Don't bring in too much product. So it's, hey, chicken and daiquiris.
Yeah.
And 3 sides.
Yeah.
And that's what we focus on.
And your size limits you anyway to having
that's
a
correct.
ton of stuff,
Yeah.
which may be good because
Yeah.
you can work on that and specialize in it and perfect it.
So they have, they kind of handle Nellie's, and I come in and make the bagels every day.
What time?
About 5 o'clock.
What time you get up?
About 4:45.
What time you go to bed?
I go to bed about 9:30. Now on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, when this place is open, it changes up a little bit. I make the dough at night, and then I have some employees that come in and cook the dough, cook the bagels.
For the bagels, yeah.
So
you stay here at night, late, when you have when you have things going on?
Oh, yeah. Right now, I'm serving as the nighttime manager at Blue Jazz also. And you know, in the big scheme of things, Blue Jazz is still a baby restaurant. It's not. We're still developing our identity, learning who we are, learning, you know, what shifts or what. And downtown it's been a little unpredictable, not just downtown, but everywhere because of the pandemic. Yeah. So we're trying to get restarted and see where we are. So until we smooth it out, then of course I'm just going to work it. I'm just going to work through it myself.
So what days here you open at Blue Jazz?
Thursday we open at 4. Friday open for lunch and dinner, starting at 11 a.m. And then Saturday we have Saturday brunch. It starts at 10, and we stay open all the way through 11. We used to be open for Sunday brunch, and we're going to bring that back. But during the pandemic, we kind of shortened our hours a little bit. Yeah. Try to remain efficient and not stretch ourselves out too far. So probably once we get a little bit further in the spring, we'll reopen for that Sunday brunch, which is a good shift. Yeah. But you know, with a lot of our Sunday crowd being a lot of churches and different things that hadn't been in, I'd rather see things starting to open up a little bit around us, and then we'll get open. So
you had to be smart during the pandemic, and still now, even it's still affecting everybody. So speaking of pandemic, employee-wise, is it hard to get employees? Is it hard to keep them? Is it?
Yeah, it's, you know, we have a lot of key employees, and I'll say this: our employees are the reason that helped us get through the pandemic. We had some core people that stayed on and worked through it and grinded through it with us. But I think, as you know, with everything that's going on with employees and with what's happening with the government and things of that nature, and I try not to get on one side or the other of that. It is what it is, but right now it's a little tough for employees.
So you're speaking of people that may be getting some benefits from the government or the checks.
Yeah. So
and which is a good thing in a way, but then it causes people not to work. It's a bad thing because the economy needs to get back on its feet. Yeah. And these checks aren't going to last forever. So right. So here's if you're watching, now's the time to get a good job because there won't be a lot of them.
Yeah, right.
Soon they'll be taken. So
everybody's hiring.
Everybody's hiring,
and
that's right.
That helps, but it also is competitive
right.
because all restaurants are hiring. Everybody's getting reopened.
Yeah.
100% capacity. People are getting vaccinated, so people are moving around a little bit more. So now we could be busier than ever. And so we have to match it with employees. So that's the struggle right now, is trying to find those employees.
There's a lot of people closed. Some shut down and are going to reopen. Some shut down and won't reopen. Right. And it's just kind of like you mentioned Hurricane Katrina earlier. That happened then too. These things take a toll on businesses and people. And so you pray for everybody that's affected by it, and you got to keep pushing. Kind of touched on challenges. What was your biggest challenge in opening your own place?
Well, number one is always money.
Money. Yeah.
Is you have these great ideas, but everything costs. Yeah. So just getting funded. I think that's the number one hurdle for most small businesses is funding, because we have the ideas are there. It's just you have to put a dollar amount on everything you want to do.
Yeah.
So so that was the hurdle. But I mean, I took some unconventional ways to make it happen. You kind of bet on yourself a little bit. A lot of banks don't have the appetite for that's the term they use, appetite for startup restaurants because of the success rate, which we know, and I get it. I get that to a certain extent.
Yeah, and it's less and less chances taken, I think, nowadays.
Yeah.
And even more with the pandemic.
Yeah. So I kind of had to use some ways, just basically take out some loans and just get the money myself, type of deal, and that's not, you always want to tie it to the business, but I kind of had to tie it to myself to get started.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And that's kind of unconventional, but I think that a lot of times that's what you have to do.
That's what you have to do.
So
have you heard the Tito Beverage ad where he talks about the 10 credit cards that he started out with?
No, I hadn't
so
seen
I think it says, we took out 10 credit cards to open our business.
Okay.
So I go back. I've done that. I did that. I had money and I had a credit card, and that's how I opened my first business.
So I guess it's not so unconventional then.
Well,
that might be the way to do it. That might be the way we have to do it.
Well, like you said, the conventional way it's been years since people would loan money on a restaurant without a lot of collateral.
Right.
So if you don't own the building and you don't have anything, then of course if you don't have anything, that's when you need the money. If you have a vision, so sometimes you have to get maybe backers.
Yeah.
Or get a group, and I think once you do one and you're successful, you can do that. But it's not easy. You need a lot of money to start a business, and it adds up quick, huh? I mean, it just adds up totally quick.
So that's the hurdle to get going.
Yeah.
And then I guess after that would be time management. Time is money when you're your own boss, right? So nobody's gonna make you get out of bed. Nobody's gonna make you do anything. You do it yourself, or it won't get done. So I would say that was the second hurdle, just learning how to, and that's where my military background kind of helped me, like being a self-starter. I mean, it wasn't like I was used to getting up every day and kind of working unsupervised, because as a recruiter, you either make the numbers or you don't. Yeah. And so that kind of helped me.
What do they do if you don't make the numbers? You
reassign you.
Reassign to whatever.
Yeah, you might be reassigned to infantry or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not where I wanted to go.
That's a good fire under you there to keep going.
Yeah, and the infantry is great. Don't get me wrong, but I was.
But you liked what you were doing. You want to keep that. Yeah. And lots of people have ideas. I always go back to, like in my business, in the cookie business, where grandma's got a great idea. It tastes wonderful, but how do you get that thing to market? Same thing in the restaurant. You've got recipe galore. You can cook at home for friends, but can you open a place like this and then be successful in getting it out on time, having the service? So it's a culmination of a lot of talents that go into making this thing work. You touched on Chesterfield, so let's go back to that, because I think there's a lot of people that in our audience that may have worked at Chesterfield, of course, have eaten there, and then you and I had experiences there. You mentioned Chester, and then I worked for Chester, but I was hired by Mike Ford and Clint. But I think a lot of people spurned out of that environment early on, I know. And,
a lot of talent in that building.
Yeah, and we're successful in different endeavors, restaurant, catering, whatever, different types of businesses. But what do you think? How does that happen in a town? And does it happen in a lot of places in a town, or was it just because it was localized, or it wasn't a chain, or what do you think? I'm not sure myself.
Yeah, I think just looking back on it, it was successful, definitely successful before I got there. But when I think it was just where Hattiesburg was in its growth. I mean, Oak Grove was still being developed. Yeah. And you didn't have all the restaurants you have out there now. And it was a locally owned place, but it was right across from the university. And it was on, I'm assuming at one point, the Hardy Street and 49 right there had to be the busiest intersection in the city.
That was the main intersection,
So it's sitting right there. Yeah. So I say location. Yeah. And you match it up with good food. And the service, to become a waiter at Chesterfield's was like a process. Right. It wasn't like, hey,
It was a gold ticket.
Yeah,
everybody was fighting for that gold ticket.
Yeah, you had to go through 3 interviews. You had to, it was all about clean cut, appearance, uniform. and it was a lot of what we call senior servers there already in place. So the system was
not senior citizens, senior servers.
Yeah, senior servers. Yeah, did I say senior citizens?
No,
okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Some of them may be now.
Yeah, senior servers, and they, a lot of them had been there for a while, so they might have been senior citizens.
Yeah, they are now.
They were like, hey, look, you come in, the system's here, and I think that helped that place sustain itself. And so just being a part of that, it was all the recipes were, the book, and everything was done it was from scratch.
Very consistent.
Very consistent.
Was my take on everything.
Yeah, and the one good thing that helped me was once I went into management, it was back then you wasn't just a front of the house manager. You had to manage the kitchen also.
Yeah.
So being a younger guy, 24 years old, managing guys and twice my age and learning how to deal with that.
Right. Yeah, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah, it's a whole different. You got somebody that's 45 years old, and here I am.
You have to have some diplomacy about you,
yeah,
otherwise you don't survive.
Yeah, to get things done. It was and I think that helped me too, because you kind of learn how to get the job done, and not always try to use force to do it. You kind of, like you said, you got to be diplomatic about some things.
Yeah.
But you also I had to learn their position. So I grill, pasta, fry, prep, every expo. So you learn how to do that, gain their respect, and then also it's training you to. So all of that helped me right now.
Exactly.
Because I can, not bragging or being arrogant, but I can work every position
exactly.
in my. You have to.
You need to be able to do it to be successful in this business. I think, just like in the grocery or retail, you need to be able to do all those spots. Otherwise, you don't know what they're doing and what the problems they have, or the solutions that you may need for it.
Right. And also you have to be able to feel their pain too.
You're right.
Hey, the grill person, what makes a successful grill shift? If they're having issues with where things are, you got to get in there and change it around and make them comfortable so they can produce. So so that was kind of like my start, how it happened at Chesterfield. So I'm grateful for that experience. I always talk about it because that was a big part of shaping me to be. Yeah. And I still have some of the Chesterisms. Yeah. The sayings.
Right. Yeah.
That he would always tell us. Eat with your eyes first.
Yeah.
Look at the restaurant, make sure it's clean. Yeah. People walk through the door, they're looking first, and they're making decisions based on what it looks like. So
I wish I'd started this program before he passed, because I'd like to have had him in there. I think maybe what we can do one day is get a group of people like St. John and you and me and some others that have been in the Alumni Association of Chesterfield and Rocket City, and just sit back and have a little quorum talk about the challenges and what happened, and also people can see who came out of there and exactly how many people really were successful. Right. I think for me, I started there right when it opened, and I know the history of it. It was Burger Chef, then it was Dale's, and then they changed the Dale's concept, and really Chesterfield's was kind of like Houston's, and it was copied as such. And that's how everything was started. It was very consistent, and that's where the success, I think, is drawn. Mike got the recipes and the concept, and then Clint did the drill sergeant work. Okay. And people really didn't like him, but he made that. Right. So the setting was made that you ended up getting into was made by this guy, So that's important when you start your place, how you set it, and how it, if it goes on for 30 years, people, will know, well, this is why, because the structure was built on, rock and not on sand. So I think that's what I found there, and I think, that's hopefully what we all do with our own businesses from the experience there.
I will say this. So after that experience, now them moving out to 98, of course, with new owner, and which is Chris Happ, I learned a lot from him too. So I learned a lot of my management style from the old Chesterfields, but the business side of it, I learned from watching Chris Happ and being a manager for him. Also, I was exposed to a little bit more of the numbers of what we're doing, what is the Friday night sales, where does that money go? Yeah. What the labor cost, the cost of goods sold. I mean, he kind of taught me and let me have access to a lot of the internal things, so I can kind of see where, is this successful? All the costs and every margins and all that. So, and I think that's why they've taken it to another level. out there. So I always have to give him some props too.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's still rolling, and he made a gamble and moved out there. People would say maybe you need to stay put because of the location, but at the end of the day, that was a good, smart move on his part. But anyway, a lot of people involved in that success. We talked about maybe getting into a little advice. You've kind of given that along the way, but what's your, we talked about entrepreneurship, and it's one thing for getting in the restaurant business, but what about entrepreneurship in general? What's your advice to somebody out there that's thinking about doing that or is not thinking about doing that? What do you think?
I get that question a lot about how I got started. I do some things with, before the pandemic, I would do some things with some kids at Hattiesburg High.
Yeah.
And so I would have some conversations with them. And then, of course, just being from around here, people come and talk to me. And whether it's right or wrong, I tell them this. If you want to open your own business, find somebody that's doing what you want to do, whatever the industry is. Work for them for a little bit, learn the ins and outs of it. See if they can teach you a little bit, absorb as much, and look at everything you can, and actually just work for them as it's your business. And
get paid.
Yeah, and get paid. Yeah, and get paid, but also just sacrificing, because that's kind of what I did. Now that may not work for everybody else, but that works for me. And I believe, like, if you want to be an entrepreneur in restaurants, go work at a restaurant. Give 110% for somebody else, and the doors are kind of open for you if you kind of do it that way. Because if I talk to kids all the time, they're like, "Hey, I want to work for myself." I'm like, "Okay, well, what do you want to do? What is it? You can't. It's hard to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You want, especially.
You need a passion of some sort.
I was in the military for 20 years, so. And we work hard, don't get me wrong, but it was kind of within a system that was already created, and you just kind of plug in, and you kind of just told what to do, or you kind of have a template or a regulation that says, hey, according to this AR 670-1, this is what you do during this time. And the rest, or working for yourself, you kind of are the regulation. So whether you're right or wrong, it's going to go in that direction. So you need to kind of know that, hey, this is going to be the hardest you've ever worked, and mentally, and you have to always kind of be the example, and which is tough because people are watching you.
Right, all the time.
And it's like, we're not perfect, of course. So I would say, that would be my advice. Get ready to work harder than you ever worked before, because if you don't get out of bed, if you don't come up with the new ideas, if you don't do marketing or the cutting edge social media, things like that, and you can't afford to pay somebody to do it, and if you don't do it, it won't get done.
You have to have that passion, and you have to get up out of bed, and then you need to be making some money. So a lot of times you'll have to take a shift on the floor and manage to get you some. If you're starting out in the restaurant business, and in other places it may be something different. Whatever happened for you along the way, you've been successful here. I mean, you're open. You're not having to borrow money, obviously, because you're rolling here. You made it through the pandemic, so that's a sign of success. A mutual friend of ours introduced us. I'm glad he did, because we have a lot in common, and I think you find that we meet up with people that are in this business. There's a lot of commonalities that come across, and you've got all the things that it takes to make those businesses work. And so, what do you think about the future? I know you don't want to say how long you want to be in a certain spot, but do you see yourself doing anything else? Expanding, offering people a chance to maybe put one somewhere else, or any thoughts like that you'd like to talk about?
Well, I've got a couple things going. I kind of, until I'm one of those people, until I know 100% for sure, I don't like to let the cat out of the bag. But as far as I'll be on Front Street for a while, hanging out. I have a vision for what my restaurants, what I want them to be. I want to be a part of downtown and the resurgence of downtown. I think I like it down here. Yeah. And I want to try to get it into a place where we can attract other restaurants to come, because if they can see that, hey, we're doing some good things down here, and we're being successful, or at a minimum staying open, but it's successful. And they can do the same thing, because I think it'll take a couple more restaurants down here and retail, and to get people walking and parking and deciding where they want to eat. I think that is going to make this Front Street especially a good place to be. And I think so. Right now, I'm fully invested in where I'm at. You know, of course, most restaurant owners always probably think about franchising and different things like that. I've been a part of Lenny's Sub Shop when it first kind of started, so I saw how it works and how quickly it can be done. Until that time comes, I'm just gonna focus on right here, and just try to make it the best I can make it right here. So I've got enough going. So
you got a lot going. It sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
So if you're down in Hasburg area and you're downtown, come see Nelson at one of his venues. Whether you want breakfast, lunch, a drink at night, music, live music, he's got everything. The downtown area is becoming more viable every day, and I invite everybody down to come and partake with him and just see what things are about. And I think you'll enjoy it. I know I ate over there when I first met him, and it was good, and we had good fellowship. And so support your local businesses and support a guy who's gone through the restaurant school of hard knocks, and has been here a long time. And remember, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Excellent job.
All right.
Good
Appreciate
job. That's
it,
good. Hey, look, they do the outtakes, so be careful.
Oh, okay.
Whatever you're saying back there, they may have got.
Yeah,
No, I'm
it's
kidding.
all good.
No, I'm kidding. Wait, make sure I look good on this. This is waiting.
Just two restaurant dudes talking.
Yeah.
Talking the game.
There you go. That's it.
So.